I sent us to hell. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Analytical Fanboys. I am your host, the Modular King of the podcasting ring, the Vacuuminator, and I am joined, as always, by my hellacious co-host, Boingo Rider. But that is not all. We also have our other co-host, the coolest toy collector in the Sunshine State, Snowcone 83. How's it going, guys?
It's going.
Great.
It's harder to tell my beginning podcast joke because now it's not like immediate, like, oh man, now I can bring in vocal jabs. It's like, nah, I gotta wait. And then I go like, oh man, is this joke funny? I can't tell anymore.
Do you want me to pause and say hello to you guys individually then? Would that be better?
No, I don't care. That was my joke.
I mean, the opening to the podcast is fluid. I actually meant to start saying what the concept of the podcast is before I introduce any of us this week, but it just skipped my mind until just now. So there's that. Analytical Fanboys. It's a book club, but we do all kinds of media. We're gonna do a wrestle. We'll do a wrestle in a bit, but first it's time for a little bit of This Week in Modular Media, the segment where we update you on what the individual members have been up to output-wise. And I want to start off by giving a bit of a apology. There was no episode of the podcast this past week, and I myself did not put out a video this past week. That's because of some shit that's been going down in sort of the real world recently that put a lot of mental stress on myself, and I know put some stress on Chris as well, and we just kind of had to take a few days off to process things. I myself was doing some serious mental karate on Saturday, but we're back now. Yeah, we're back now though. We're ready to get back in the hot seats, yeah, we will be getting back to regular output now. However, Chris, you didn't really slow down that much. You put out a video this week. Why don't you pimp that out a little bit?
Yeah, I as it should come to no shock, I am a fan of anime. The weeb I am.
Anime is a Japanese colloquialism.
Fuck off. Don't bring the digi shit in our house. So I made a fun jokey video talking about one of my favorite characters, Burke. He is a walking, talking musician skeleton man with an afro in One Piece.
Nice.
But right now, currently, time of recording, I am testing a thing out where 4 weeks I make a video, 1 week, one video a week. And then I just take a week, write as much as I can so I can do those 4 weeks, seeing how it works. So far, it's doing pretty okay. I finished one script by writing 1,000 words in 1 day.
That's so impressive, bro.
And I've got like half to 3/4 of an outline done, but it's gotten really dense on the paper, so it's probably going to be I'd say at least 10 pages pure script.
Nice. I am excited too. I don't know where that was going, but yeah, this fucking. I'm so excited to see you in such a good workflow over the last couple months. Like, pandemic has done you wonders, sir.
I think it's just finally I realized how to actually like trick my ADHD brain to do the things I want.
I mean, that's an achievement too. But Cody, I'm assuming you didn't really put out anything this week?
The only thing I put out is, Yeah,
okay.
Just been working my regular, normal guy job.
That's fair. And I didn't want to be like, hey, did you do something? I just wanted to check in so people didn't feel like we were ignoring you. But
No.
that's pretty much there.
You shared some spicy memes.
Hey, he did do that. did do that. He's a spicy meme boy.
Hmm.
But that's it for this week of Modular. So let's go ahead and get on to our main topic for this week, which is quite possibly one of the most famous wrestling pay-per-views of all time. It's something I put on the list because I wanted to see it myself very badly. I believe it was also Chris and Cody's first time watching it, and Cody isn't even that much of a wrestling fan, so this was kind of like a major shove into the deep end for him. We are talking about WWF King of the Ring 1998. This is a pretty monumental pay-per-view in wrestling history, and we're going to run down the whole card segment by segment. But before we do, gentlemen, why don't you give a little bit of your general thoughts going into this?
I knew the match that this was on the list for. I knew that one single match, and I was just going like, all right, cool. 90% of this has been forgotten. Let's see if it's forgotten for a good reason or not.
That's fair. How about you, Cody?
Well, I talked it over with my friend Cole a lot because that's who I watched it with. He's like a wrestling like addict.
Oh yeah.
And he, we just talked about like he pretty much said what like it pretty much ended up being, but like I don't know, I didn't really have a whole lot of expectations, I guess. Like I knew it was supposed to be like this crazy show. But I specifically asked Cole not to say too much about it because I was like, it'd be cool just to like have this all be like, I mean, I knew like the big thing that happened, but I didn't know the details of like everything that went on. And I will say that like by the time we got to like that match, I was actually blown away. I was like, I mean, it's crazy. You know, we'll talk about it when we get there, but like, yeah.
Yeah, I had seen that match in full before, but everything else on this pay-per-view was new to me, and it was really cool getting to experience that match in context. But
I never experienced that match of that match. I have seen the first part and the second part. That's it.
Ooh.
Oh, you know what? The same for Cole. He had never watched the full thing.
Holy shit!
That's awesome.
But we'll get to that when we get to it.
Yeah, let's stop beating around the bush. Let's start going down the card here. The show starts off with a bonus tag team match. Bonus match is basically a word they threw around in this era to signal we didn't bother to build this at all. We have the Headbangers and Taka Michinoku, the lightweight champion, taking on Kai and Tai. This is a bunch of people I'd never fucking heard of before. But the Headbangers and Taka Michinoku are all right in my book after watching this.
Yeah. This whole match was really cool. You've seen Funaki whenever they do a pay-per-view and they went like, here's our Japanese announce team, blah, 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 and Funaki.
Oh, that's who that is.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool.
I enjoyed the first match too. I don't know, it was just cool to watch. Me and Cole were just. I think the one thing is like during like the first one the first two matches, me and him were discussing a lot of like general things because it's something that like it was just more like general wrestling stuff. But I was like locked onto the match the whole time. It was just like really cool. It was like for me like how the whole thing opened up. It just like it was kind of like a stepping stone all the way up to it. You know, it was pretty interesting.
Yeah, it was a solid tag team match. I'd give it like a 3-star. It was also just really cool learning about Taka Michinoku because I've seen tons of Michinoku drivers done before. I had no idea it was named after an actual guy who's still alive. That was kind of cool to get to find that out.
Yeah, it's like finding out there's a guy named Robert Falcon.
But then we go to a segment where Sable comes out and introduces Vince McMahon and the Corporate Stooges, which was a bit of shock to me that he didn't come out to frickin' No Chance. This is kind of pre-Mr. McMahon, but we're transitioning into that era, so he's just coming out to a chorus of boos. And he cuts a really dumb basic bitch promo on how Gen Xers are a disappointment.
The more things change, the more things stay the same.
Yeah.
A thing I always know, because I've gotten into wrestling and I've seen all the retrospectives and all that kind of stuff, is just like, yeah, the Attitude Era was really fucking sexist. And I'm just and I was just going like, I bet dollars to donuts Sable did not want to wear that outfit.
Mm-hmm. And Pat Patterson, the gayest man alive in the WWF at the time, fucking slapping her on the ass and then getting slapped in the face and then acting indignant and saying, and I quote, "I dare you snapping a woman how what?" That was his exact line after he got slapped.
Yeah.
It was.
Welcome to the Attitude Era, Cody.
Yeah, no, like, I mean, I don't know. As far as like, Chris, were you into wrestling before like these last couple of years?
There was a brief moment, but I was so flighty as a kid, I didn't genuinely pay attention. It was like sometime during the Ruthless Aggression, I remember images of like full Motorhead style Triple H and John Cena, but that's about it.
So for me, like, because I was that little white trash kid, like, I had like a Stone Cold and a Rock, and like I had just all that stuff when I was like around that time. Like, this was like, when I think of wrestling, this is what it goes to. I just don't have a whole lot of recollection for a lot of the stuff, because like there'd always be these matches on, and I'd always be hanging out with like my little kid friends. That sounds really bad. But we'd just be we'd just be hanging out watching wrestling, and
just watching some grown, sweaty men just grapple each other.
Yeah.
All your little kid friends.
It's like, and that was another thing. It has very little to do with wrestling, but like watching this just reminded me of like being stuck in like a pop-up camper with like the smell of campfire and like beer. That's neither of which are mine, and like just like also just like reminded me of like celebrity deathmatch and stuff like that. Just because like all of those things at the same time were all things that like were around me when I was like that age. So I don't know, but it was cool to like see as an adult, just that stuff. Nostalgic, I guess, is the better word.
Yeah.
Yeah, not much really to say about this promo. It's just Vince going off on Gen Xers and also hyping the main event, which he is wont to do. But then we go to the King of the Ring semi-final matches. The first one is Double J Jeff Jarrett versus Ken Shamrock, which
Hey. Hall of Famer Double J Jeff Jarrett.
So I only know Jeff Jarrett from his recent WWE Nostalgia run, which was like last year as of this recording. It was super interesting seeing him in his prime. Like, he's just a goofier Baron Corbin, isn't he?
A goofier Baron Corbin with what's his name? Guitar Boy. Elias's gimmick.
Yeah. And I mean, it works. It's pretty entertaining, but wow, the more things change, the more they stay the same.
Yeah.
Also, Ken Shamrock is fucking cool. I liked him a lot in this match.
This was around the time when WWE started going like, "Hey, MMA's a thing. Maybe we should start trying to do some of that and make ourselves look good."
Yes, the beginning of the end.
Oh, I mean, there was at one point Shane McMahon went to his dad and said, "Hey, there's this project that's having trouble trying to find funding. Maybe we should buy it. It's called the UFC." And Vince McMahon went, "No, that's stupid."
Oh, Vince. Any thoughts on this match, Cody?
I'm trying to remember who was who.
Shamrock's the dude in the red shorts and the boxing gloves. Jeff Jarrett's the guy in the ridiculous fucking shirt.
Right. So that was something that me and Cole were talking a lot about. And I guess like probably a lot of my input for a lot of this is going to be like also Cole's input, just because like of us talking about this stuff. Because I know we both talked about how Jeff Jarrett was like huge in like our family circles, just because like he was just like a dreamboat and like a star to like a lot of like I guess rednecks. I mean, yeah, you know, that's what it was. That's what we were, you know.
His whole gimmick is that he's a redneck who's full of himself.
I know, like, but what we also talked about, which is what I found more interesting, was like the Ken Shamrock being like a real fighter, like being like the real deal, is what Cole kept saying, you know, because he's like just talking about like his ability as a person and a human, and it was cool to see like them face off like that, like just like my interest for a lot of these are like more about like the characters that I was like learning about. The match was entertaining for sure, but I don't know a lot about match to match wrestling and like what makes a good wrestling match versus what doesn't. I could just like watch what's happening on screen and be like, I mean, I know like the more real the punches look and stuff like that, you know, and like how well a match goes, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean,
and
that's
how well
fair.
they sell. Like they take the punch and how well they make it look painful.
Yeah.
I mean, me and Cody, or me and Chris, rather, I should say, two C names. I'm gonna get it mixed up occasionally. But me and Chris are more character guys when it comes to wrestling. So Matt, we don't have to worry about being like, oh, this move was awesome and this move was awesome.
Yeah, when we get into like those heavy ring action segment matches, we just freak out. It doesn't matter any psychology because it's just like, oh god, it's a flip. Oh god, it's a table.
Mm-hmm. Shit's happening. It's cool. I like it.
Also known as every Lucha Bros Young Bucks match.
So the other semifinal match we had was The Rock, who was the Intercontinental Champion at the time, taking on Dan the Beast Severn.
I think he was also an MMA dude.
Yeah, I'd never heard of Dan Severn before this, honestly. And I just kind of laughed like, oh, Brock stole his nickname from a dude. That's hilarious. But
it's so weird to see baby Rock.
Yeah, like I'm so used to the Rock being a fucking mountain of a man and just being super charismatic, and it's at this point, with how much his Hollywood persona has perforated culture, it's kind of hard to remember like, oh yeah, he got famous because he was this ridiculous jackass in wrestling and he looked like a heartthrob.
And I mean, he still has the Nation of Domination with him.
Yeah. This was actually right in the middle of the DX Nation of Domination feud that was a huge deal during the Attitude Era.
Did you and Cole talk about the Nation of Domination stuff at all?
No, not that I remember.
Basically, the gimmick was it was a militant black group fighting for black rights, and they were the bad guys.
Because wrestling.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So there is one hilarious GIF that's shared every once in a while of all the Nation of Domination members like doing the Black Power fist, and there's just the one white boy in the middle of the crowd doing it.
That's so good. But yeah, no, this match was super fun. Like even the botches are kind of great. Like there's one moment where a takedown by Severn doesn't go too well, and Rock just kind of gets in the corner, grabs the ropes, and goes, "God damn it!" under his breath, and you can hear it.
Yeah. I laughed at that. That was funny to hear.
I mean, The Rock was still pretty green at that point in time, wasn't he? Like he still, it was still early years in his wrestling.
I think this was like maybe a year or two out from him becoming The Rock and not being Rocky Maivia anymore. I don't know, I'm a little hazy on that, but it is a fun match. But Rock and Shamrock won their respective matches, so a little bit later in the card, they go on to the final, which we'll talk about when we get to it. But the next thing is a little bit of insanity because we have the tag team Too Much taking on Al Snow and Head in a match where if Al Snow wins, he gets a meeting with Vince McMahon to ask for his job match, and if he leaves, he can never come back to WWF. Oh, and also, Jerry the King Lawler, who is the father of one of the members of Too Much, is the special guest referee.
Were they father and son in kayfabe?
Jim Ross said something about it during the match, but I don't think it was explicit. I think it was like him joking, like, that kid looks like you, or something like that.
I think...
So I was about to ask you what you thought of Head.
Ask me.
Ask anyone, really.
What I was gonna say is I think he was saying something like I've completely lost it now, so it doesn't matter. Just talking about the father and son thing. I thought Head was awesome. I really enjoyed that character. Like I really enjoyed just that whole thing. And me and Cole were joking about like the what I guess is his like tagline or whatever. Where it's like the joke is like everyone wants a little head, you know. Like it's funny. It's definitely that era, but it's funny, you know.
Like people talk about how like shit like Orange Cassidy is ruining the business. There's been ridiculously goofy shit in wrestling before, and this is prime example of it. And it works just as well. Like that finish where they shove a bottle of Head and Shoulders up Head's hole and they pin him. Oh my god!
I'm pretty sure Head's. I don't know. I think I thought Head was like feminine.
It's probably off of a real doll, so yeah.
I think it was a mannequin, like a fashion mannequin.
Yeah, it's a fashion mannequin. I think when he was walking into the ring too, there was like I think like a kid hands him like a different mannequin head. And he like grabbed it or something, and he like gave it a weird look, and I just like that was like my first impression of like what was happening. I was like, what the fuck? It was just really funny.
There's also like commentary. There's a lot of good commentary on the show, but this is where it really gets going at the first part where I really started to notice it, because there's all the banter leading into the match between Jim Ross and Jerry Lawler, but then during the match, it's just Ross calling the match by himself, and he's just utterly baffled by the fact that he has to call a match where one of the participants is a mannequin head. Like, there's a point where he flat out goes, and the head is the legal man, ... What the hell am I saying?
That's the best. That's when Jim Ross is the best as the straight man to all the insanity going on in a professional wrestling match, and him just trying to parse it for the audience.
It is a great little match.
Yeah, I think my favorite thing about it was how like there was just like constant play with like whether or not it was, I'm sure it was intentional, but like I mean, yeah, it was intentional. It was like you could see the favoritism of the referee.
Yeah.
And so like he was definitely like, even if like at that time, if you knew, you knew. And so like I mean, I guess you could call that like a sort of Easter egg. So, and because
but also
like,
they kind of set it up with Jerry Lawler kind of like not liking Al Snow in general.
But yeah,
apparently,
no, go ahead.
I was gonna say apparently, according to Cole, because he talked about Al Snow a bit. Apparently, like he is a teacher at he has his own wrestling school.
Yeah. And he does classes at the Performance Center too.
Oh, cool.
Uh, so moving on to our next match, we have X-Pac taking on Owen Hart in basically a singles blood feud beef kind of match. Because I believe Owen Hart had cost X-Pac his spot in the first round of the King of the Ring tournament on an episode of Raw or something or other. This was fine.
Yeah. I mean, both are solid workers, so they can always put on a good match, and that's what all this match needed to be, was good. It needed to fill up some time till the main event.
Yeah, so solid bit of filler. Good little bit to get China worked up, all limbered up for the rest of the working she has to do for the night.
Oh god,
So much China in this show. I'm excited. I don't know if I've made a huge statement about this on the show before, but China's one of my female wrestlers. I genuinely think she's great.
She deserves a lot more love than she's given today.
Mm-hmm. But go ahead.
I was gonna say Cole was also saying stuff about that, or saying that like China is like one of his favorites. But that's all I was gonna have to say about that.
Yeah. The biggest thing about China was after she left WWE, she wanted to do porn, and basically the WWE was like, "What if kids will Google her and find the porn? We can't have that." And basically,
they disowned her
from their history. And then she died, and then it just became increasingly more and more awkward.
They kind of refused to put her in the Hall of Fame for a few years until just last year she was inducted with the rest of D-Generation X.
And I'm pretty sure that was X-Pac basically going to Hunter and saying, like, fucking do this.
Mm-hmm. Which is still kind of bullshit, because I think she deserves a solo induction as well, but that's a rant for another day.
Yeah.
Then we got a quick promo from Paul Bearer, basically reminding everybody of shit that had been going on Raw at the time. Of The Undertaker came to his house a couple times and beat the shit out of him, and he basically goes on and on about how like Kane grew up watching his big brother The Undertaker on TV, and he idolized him and looked up to him, and now that The Undertaker's turned on the two of them, it makes Paul Bearer feel like shit, and he really wants Kane to become the champion at the end of the night to kind of prove Undertaker wrong and say that he is the better brother.
One quick note about this one was whenever he was talking, I just went to Cole and I was like, wait a minute. I'm like, so this guy was the manager for Undertaker and his name is Paul Bearer, and he's like, yeah, that's the joke, and I'm like, nice. I'm like, that's silly, but I mean, I know that's the point, but I'm like, I appreciate that.
Also, at this
go.
Also, at this point, he was Undertaker and Kane's kayfabe fodder. That would later be retconned, but at this point, that's what we thought he was to them.
Not just like father, he was like their illegitimate father, because they had like a dad, and he was like he like had sex with their mom on the side kind of thing, if I remember right.
Their whole backstory is fucked up, and it goes in all kinds of crazy retconical directions.
Yeah. No, like, here's the thing people tend to forget about The Undertaker. The Undertaker appeared in the WWF at the time when everybody had like a job gimmick. There was a race car wrestler. There was a Repo Man wrestler. There was a space alien wrestler. Like, that's what's the show. It's just like, look at all these jobs. Wrestling. And so he was a mortician. And it was like, oh, he's spoopy. And Mark, the guy who is the Undertaker, just played him so perfectly. Everyone was just like, oh shit, this guy's good.
Let's keep him around.
Because at that same time, the dude who plays Kane, was at the same time an evil dentist named Isaac Yankem.
Oh.
Yep.
Also, Chris, you brought up that there used to be a space alien wrestler. You're probably predicting what I'm going to say. At some point, AEW needs to bring that person in if they're still alive and reveal that they're, what's her fucking name's kayfabe fodder.
Max Moon is the WWF wrestler from the time, and Chris Statlander is the current AEW wrestler who is from the Andromeda Galaxy.
Mm-hmm. You could do that. That'd be a fun, goofy storyline.
It'd be fun.
But yeah,
for a BTE, I wouldn't want it on Dynamite.
That's fair. Moving on to the only other tag team match on the card, we have the New Age Outlaws, the WWF Tag Team Champions, taking on the Midnight Express, the NWA Tag Team Champions. This is kind of the final bit of the failed NWA Invasion storyline, and that means that storyline ends with Jim Cornette getting punched in the nuts by China. 10 stars.
Bro. You better call someone. Like, whenever I do the hosting on the podcast, my usual opening statement is, ladies and gentlemen, guys and gals, non-binary pals, and a technicolor rainbow in between. I just ripped it off Road Dogg.
That's awesome.
Literally, I just went like, that's good. I'm just gonna change it a little bit.
This is a really fun match, especially because Bart Gunn, Billy's brother, was in the Midnight Express at the time, so it's technically two brothers wrestling, and they have a lot of fun with that. Where at one point Bart does like a suck it, and then Road Dogg comes up and he's like, "Hey, don't do our thing! You can't do our thing!" But yeah, it was a really solid match. Again, I just love that finish where Jim Cornette is just standing in the corner of the ring holding the belt for like a minute solid, going, "Don't come to me, I have the belt." And Billy Gunn is like, "Don't hit me with the belt. I have the belt. Don't hit me with the belt." And then finally China shows up and just low blows him, and that's how they win the match. Yes.
Generally, that was just DX at the time. Is the only people in that group that had any brain cells was Triple H and China. But it was interesting to see Billy Gunn kind of like in his youth prime, because we've been watching Billy Gunn in AEW, and he's been, he's cool, old veteran, putting young guys over. And here it's like, damn.
Yeah.
He was the agile guy at the time, and now he's a powerhouse.
Now he's the big lumbering giant that everybody's scared of. Well, him and Wardlow. And Lucius.
Murder Hawk.
And Brian Cage. There's a lot of big, scary guys in AEW now.
Yeah, but Brian Cage is also Wolverine.
That's true. But yeah, no. Fantastic match. I really enjoyed it. Like, I remember enjoying it the whole way through. I just can't remember specific spots besides the finish. Anything you wanted to say on it, Cody?
I just remember the aesthetic, like of, I guess it's X-Pac. Because, like I said before, I'm not like super familiar on like all the people doing the things, but like I recognized some, and it was just interesting to watch. Like, I don't know, it's like almost like a I can't remember what I said to Cole specifically, but it felt like just like seeing them, it was just like new wrestling, like in wrestling, and it just like again reminded me of like just some of my cousins and stuff like that. And, like
I can definitely see you and your like little cousins doing suck it at each other.
Yeah, there's a couple of us that did that, but I didn't know where it came from. Yeah.
All right. Well, moving on to the King of the Ring final match. The Rock versus Ken Shamrock, with last year's King of the Ring winner Triple H on commentary and China on Spanish commentary, which is where we found out in kayfabe that China was bilingual. And we also got one of the greatest Triple H lines of all time. Does anybody else remember it?
Nope.
I'm a lot of buy things, but lingual's not one of them.
Oh yeah.
Which
I pointed
believe
that out
that's
to Cole.
I believe that's also going to be Chris's campaign slogan in 2024. Isn't that right?
Oh man.
Yeah, this is a really solid match. Ken Shamrock ended up winning. I don't think he really went to any great heights after this, which is kind of a shame because that's kind of the point of King of the Ring: get somebody really over so we can push them.
And also give them a team gimmick for a year.
Yeah, but it was a solid match, and the commentary was just so much fun. Like I only quoted one line, but there's so much hilarious, memorable shit that Triple H throws out. Like he gets his headset knocked off by the Rock at one point, and then he has to hook it back up, and he goes, "Testes 1, 2, ... free." But then he made a joke about like you can't pose in any nudie mags no more. It'll take away your crown. Which I think was an allusion to the fact that he was in an issue of Playgirl, or maybe it was a jab at Sean. I don't remember which.
Sean was in Playgirl.
Yeah.
Which that line is also incredibly depressing in retrospect in regards to China.
Yeah. But no, this is tons of fun. I enjoyed it. And yeah, I'd never seen any Ken Shamrock before this, and I'd heard the name a couple times, but like getting to see this and get to see like Ken Shamrock was a legit guy who could go and make matches look really good. And he was kind of one of the first guys to do that. I'm a legit shoot fighter. I'm some karate gimmick. Yeah, this is cool. I liked it.
Paving the way for Matt Riddles everywhere.
Sharp inhale.
The one thing I remember is even though like I like The Rock, the match where it was like The Rock versus I forget what the other guy's name was, but the guy he was up against was someone who was a lot like Shamrock. He was also a UFC fighter, if I remember correctly. And I was like, oh man, it'd be really cool to see those guys face off. And I mean, that's not what happened, but I still really enjoyed that match too. And I was also like surprised by like China on like the Spanish commentator, because like it like panned over to it and I was like, whoa, what's going on with that? That's crazy. Like it's not crazy for someone to be bilingual, but it was just like crazy to see like boom firing it off. You know, like it's like actual bilingual. Like it's pretty cool.
And also, WWE doesn't show the other commentary tables in the archived feed that often, so that's cool to see. But yeah, that's everything before the match. So, fellas, you ready?
Yeah.
We have Mankind taking on The Undertaker in the only second ever Hell in a Cell match. Probably one of the most infamous, famous, well-regarded, well-known, whatever kind of accolade you want to give it, matches ever in professional wrestling. Because by all rights, Mick Foley should have died during this.
Oh, man.
It was just a fucking masterpiece of like a couple of incredible spots that were all built up to from really, really good character work from both guys. Like both these guys, even though there's a little bit where they're trying to get Foley, Mankind, whatever you want to call him, on a stretcher, they never broke character until that pin. It was amazing that like like you can see a little bit in Undertaker's eyes after the fall. He's kind of like, oh shit, I think I might have just killed him, but he's still in character. He's still standing there like, I'm a zombie, and it's fucking cool.
That
Go.
was one of the things that just I've never been like I've seen like a few wrestling matches, but like I've never been that locked on just because of how actual real it got, you know. But one thing that like Cole pointed out was just like when you pay attention to like their body language when they're walking across the top of the cage, like they're careful with their step, like they're in character, but like you could tell they're like worried. Like you could tell that there is like a sense of fear that's like not acting, but like they're afraid of like, and you could also see like you can't really hear it, but you can see like zip ties popping off every now and then when they're walking around, like
Yeah,
just like firing off from the cage.
the cage was not made for them to be able to get up there at the time. Like last year, because it was the 20th anniversary of the match, McFoley did a little like tour going around giving basically a TED talk on the match from his perspective. And he talked about like at that time, the cage was made to literally just be a little ramshackle cage. Like now in Hell in a Cell matches, there's like handholds and stuff if you want to climb the cage, and it's really reinforced on top. But back then, it was literally just thrown together, and he didn't tell anyone he was going to go on top. He was literally just joking around with a friend of his backstage when he found out that he was going to be in the match. He was like, "Man, I don't know how I can top Shawn and Taker from that last one. That's going to be hard." And they're like, "Maybe you should just go on top." And he was like, "Oh shit, I have to fucking do that now." And you can tell like Taker's not expecting it when he climbs up there, but Taker's Taker, so he's like, "All right, motherfucker, I'm coming after you. Let's do this." And then there's a reason it's called the fall. There's a reason we say he fell off the cage, because it's not like a fucking he gets choke slammed off of it or some other kind of thing, or like you can literally watch Foley walking around and like he's trying to watch where he's going, but he takes his eye off his back for like a second, and he just steps and goes right into that table. And
Yeah.
like you can tell listening to the commentators, they think the match is over. They think they might have just seen a man die, because that is a nasty ass fall. There's no crash pad or anything waiting for him down there.
But
Because
here's the thing, that fall was planned.
really,
I am pretty sure that was the fall that was planned, and the second one was not.
oh,
I think Cole was saying it was the other way around.
No, I'm
But
pretty
I'm not
sure it's
sure.
the second one, because I think it's. Hold on. We have the internet at hand. I'm Googling.
okay.
While he's looking that up, in all of, like the replays, like just hearing like together, like they're like the one that stuck with me is like he's like, "Oh my god, like they've killed him." Somebody get like down there, and like the guy's like, "No, I'm serious." Like
God is my witness, he is broken in half.
yeah, like and it was cool to see. I believe it's Terry Funk Jr. come down there, and they talk about how they're like, and like they're still like trying to be professional, even the commentators, because they're like, you know, you can just tell how serious it is, because you know, like even though like Mankind and Terry Funk are at a feud, like you know, he's down here checking on them, you know, like not like wanting to be like, yeah, they're best friends.
And then Taker fucking walks up, and they're all like, "Hey, get back, get back, get back!" Trying to keep the illusion. And Taker just choke slams Terry Funk out of his fucking shoes.
According to Terry Funk, the prop guy had purposely designed it in that way, except it was never meant to give way completely. The second huge bump of the night, The Undertaker chokeslammed Mankind atop the chain link mesh fence, causing one panel to give way completely, resulting in falling from and hitting the ring canvas hard below. In response, the announcer Jim Ross shouted, good God, will somebody stop the damn match? Enough's enough."
So
the cage giving away was completely giving way completely was unplanned by both Foley and Undertaker.
But the spot was, but the idea that he would get choke slammed onto the cage was planned.
Yes. Foley was genuinely knocked unconscious for a few moments after the impact, but was able to come around. Terry Funk wrote in his autobiography, "Watching from the back, I thought he was dead. I ran out there and looked down at him, still lying in the ring where he had landed. His eyes weren't rolled back in his head, but they looked totally glazed over like a dead fish's eyes."
Jesus.
And then there's just that iconic shot of him sitting in the corner, and you can see he's got a tooth stuck up his nose that flew out of his own mouth. And from that spoken word tour that Foley did, he said that, like, in that shot, the side of his mouth, you couldn't see it through his beard and all the blood, but the side of his mouth was torn open, and he was trying to force his tongue through it to gross the audience out.
I mean, his tooth went into his mouth, up his sinuses, and out his nose.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, me and Cole were trying to figure out. I'm like, how did his tooth get there? I'm like, what happened? That's crazy to think of, though. Like, because, I mean, thinking about, like, that moment where, like, he throws him through the cage, like, you hear the pop, and, like, I just remember, like, seeing Undertaker's face, and, like, it's, like, you could tell, like, across the whole match, it's just, like, insane. I don't know. I mean, it's, like, it's obviously great entertainment, but it's, like, it's past the line of, like, entertainment for, like, danger and, like, endangering human life.
Yeah, that's kind of the thing about this match is, like, it deserves its place as a very important match in wrestling history, but it should be viewed not as aspirational, but as a warning of being sure of what the fuck you're doing and planning and making sure everything is safe.
Yeah.
Man,
you can see the cage moving when they're walking around on it. Like,
oh, it's really scary.
Not like swaying back and forth, but you could see it, like,
you can see every panel dip.
Like, they take a step and it just goes wrong.
Like, but like in the actual framework of the cage, you see it shift left to right. Something that's really only going to happen in something that's, like, meant to just, like, exist as a hanging object and not as, like, a structural object. And, like, it's just crazy. And I remember I was, like, surprised whenever they lifted it up for a moment to get the stretcher in, and Undertaker's still just, like, chilling on top of the thing. Like,
it's like, all right, this is where I live now.
Yeah, that was the first time. They lifted it up with Taker on it, and because they had to get it around the edge of it to where he was.
And he's just like, all right, this is where I live now. That's my punishment. That's fair.
And like, again, complete oversight. What if someone had actually gotten hurt and it took that long to actually get the stretcher to him? It's the unsafety of the era, and it's kind of like it is a good warning for a lot of wrestlers that many didn't take. Looking at you, Joey Janela.
Looking at you, Kevin Owens, who tried to replicate the spot in 2014. I mean, he did have a crash pad, to be fair, but still, like, dude, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Kevin Owens is the one that fell from the rafters?
No, that was Owen Hart, and that dude legit died because they didn't. That's another case of they didn't do shit right.
Yeah, safety was extremely substandard in this era of wrestling.
Mm-hmm. Kevin Owens did a big homage to the falling off the cell spot in a Hell in a Cell match he had a few years ago, but they had like padding all around the outside, and there was a crash pad under the table he fell into and shit like that. Also, that cell was made way better.
Oh, I'm sure.
But yeah, no, this match, like, for as problematic, I guess as it is, it's still a fucking spectacle, and it's a 5-star match. Like, you gotta watch it at least once if you're a wrestling fan. And it's incredible.
Yeah.
I'd
It's
say
also
so.
it's surprising to me because I always thought, oh yeah, no, those two spots were near the end. No, they're the first two major spots of the match.
Mm-hmm.
Because like in my head, it's like, oh no, that's the climax of the match. That's where
Because that's all anyone ever talks about when it comes to the match.
Yeah.
It was just fascinating to me. It's like, oh shit, the spots are done already. There's a match after this? Man. It doesn't help that like Mick Foley was also like Mick Foley put his body through a bunch of bullshit through the years. It's a blessing he's still with us technically.
I've seen a few of his Japanese death matches, and that shit is insane.
Like, fuck Japanese death matches. Even the goofier ones where it's like, we're just gonna have like explosions everywhere. It's like, yeah, but like, fuck Glass.
Mm-hmm.
Like that Joey Janela spot that he did at CZW.
Oh, Jesus. I hadn't thought about that in a while.
I mean, they did just show it recently on Dynamite.
That's true. Oh, yeah.
Cody, the spot I'm talking about is basically a dude was doing a pile driver to another guy named Joey Janela from the top of the roof of a building into the back of a pickup truck full of fluorescent light tubes.
Jesus.
And they fucked the spot up, and the dude had to take it all on his goddamn legs, and he broke his ankles.
Damn. That's insane. That's not worth whatever they got paid.
Yeah, no.
There's a reason CZW is called garbage wrestling.
Hey, but at least it gave us Janela and Moxley. So
yeah. All right. Well, we can't talk about that match forever. So let's move on to the main event, which is Stone Cold Steve Austin taking on Kane for the World Heavyweight Champion in a first blood match.
Kane went in there with a brilliant strategy. I'm gonna wear all red so you can't see no blood.
Mm-hmm. And then it ended up not mattering because Austin got cut multiple times, and they didn't fucking end the match until the spot where the match was supposed to end. As Ollie Davis would say, "What are the rules?"
Hey, Jim Ross tried the hand wave it and said like, no, that needs to be a full blood. Those scratches are bumps at full blood.
Yeah. But no, it was a solid match. It was a really bloody war. I like the part where they were like, where they were talking about how like Austin needs to get in the ring. He's not safe on the outside, and like Kane was coming after him with chairs and tables and shit.
I didn't expect the cell to play into it at all.
Yeah, that was kind of cool when it lowered, and then like I think Kane was dangling from it at one point, and Austin's just punching him. Like it's sort of a goofy spot, but it was cool in a wrestling kind of way.
Yeah, it's hard to like look at this match. Like it's fun and fun by itself, taken out of the whole. It's like, oh yeah, this is cool, but like it follows that.
Yeah. Like, these guys are working, and they're probably going in the back of their mind like, shit, I might walk backstage and hear that Foley died.
Yeah.
And then Foley and Taker run out with chairs in street clothes 10 minutes later.
Yeah, that was like really surprising to see. I remember how, like whenever he ran on, I was just like, "Whoa, what's going on?" Like, that's crazy. He's still up and moving. Like, um, just like I could only imagine like being there, you know, and just
Yeah.
like seeing him like run back down, and I'm just like, people just like were going crazy. Like, it's cool. It's cool to see.
I mean, it's
You,
like seeing an indestructible man. It's like, what the fuck?
Hmm.
What can put this fucker down?
you want to know another great factoid from that spoken word thing Foley did?
Hmm.
This was the night he met Stephanie McMahon for the first time. Because after the show, he was called to Vince's office and basically got read the riot act for going on top of the cell and causing all this shit to happen. And then he walks out, he's bloody and fucking bandaged, and Stephanie's just sitting outside and she's like, "Can I go in and talk to my dad now?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, sure. Have a great night." He's like with his fucking toothless grin waving at her and walking away. And keep in mind, she's like 13, 14 at the time.
Oh,
Yeah.
that makes a thing a couple years later a little weird
Mm-hmm.
because Stephanie McMahon marries Triple H
Yeah.
in real life, Cody.
Hmm. So, like, what happened between Stephanie McMahon and McFoley?
It's just seeing a bruised, beaten, bloodied pulp man just being the nicest fellow. The dude basically plays Santa Claus year round. Like, that's how nice of a dude he is.
He is a super nice guy, IRL, and also Stephanie McMahon is the boss's daughter. And the first time he met her was when he's all fucked up from this match, and that's kind of hilarious.
Hmm. Yeah, that's pretty interesting.
But yeah, no, the ending to this pay-per-view is pretty good. I actually really liked that Kane won, and it's like this giant cliffhanger of like, oh no, Kane, Paul Bearer, McMahon, they all have control of the championship again. What's Stone Cold gonna do? I kind of like that cliffhanger in a way that I didn't like the cliffhanger from the last pay-per-view we reviewed. It felt super dramatic, but not in like a oh I kind of wanted a satisfying end here. I was like, oh, I actually want to go watch some 90s Raw now. I want to see what happened after this.
It was me, Austin. It was me all along.
Oh.
It eventually leads there, and you know it.
Listen, I can live in a fantasy world as much as I want. Yeah. But yeah, no, this is a great show. I really like how basically if you look at the card, the action and the kind of level of character and drama slowly builds through the night until you get to the crescendo of that Undertaker and Mankind match. And then like the main event is kind of acts as like a nice little requiem / epilogue to it. Um, I think it's a really fantastic and well done card. A lot of really good work by folks. Again, Jim Cornette gets punched in the nuts, so that's bonus points. Um, and yeah, I really like this show. I think it fully held up to its reputation. How do you guys feel?
I feel like it's understandable why most people forget 90% of this card. It's a shame, but it's understandable. It's fine. That's the thing. It's a good pay-per-view with a nugget of like wrestling history in the middle of it, so it's easy to forget the rest of it.
That's fair. How about you, Cody?
From my perspective, it's like after watching it in whole and like seeing just that match in particular, like it was easy to see why it was important, like what was going on, like it was a spectacle, like the whole match was enjoyable. It's a nice slice of wrestling. It's got a lot of what why wrestling is good sprinkled throughout, and then like boom, you have that, and it's like it was something to see. It was incredible.
All right. Well, I guess that brings us to the end of the main topic, which means we need to select our main topic for next week. Are you guys ready to do that?
Yes.
E.
All right, I'm loading everything into the randomizer real quick. The thing will fucking load. There we go. All right. All right, it's picking, and next week on Analytical Fanboys, we are going to discuss Monsters Incorporated.
Hey.
Hey.
Like,
One of the better early Pixar films. It's weird saying
I
that
think
that's
you mean
early.
Monster Trucks Incorporated. That's what it's actually called.
I thought it was Monster Dongs Incorporated.
Oh. I was referencing the other in canon, like Pixar movie version of that movie. Trying to keep it family friendly.
I thought you were talking about the one weird movie with all the tentacle monsters in the trucks.
Dude, we dropped a ton of F-bombs during this podcast so far. You really think we're trying to keep it family friendly here? But yeah, no, that's a great movie. It says your iPod
kids.
What?
Fucking think of the kids.
I'll think of them. I'll think of them. I won't do anything about them, but I'll think of them. But yeah, no, this is a big movie from my childhood. Apparently, I put it on the list, although I have no memory of doing so. But hey, it's gonna be neat to revisit it, neat to talk about it with you guys, and we'll do that later. But right now, oh, Chris, it's time to put on our big boy pants because we got to talk about some not great shit in this week's MMWP.
So real quick, I think we need to make just a general blanket statement. Fuck sexual abuse, fuck emotional abuse, fuck manipulation, fuck rape, fuck all that shit.
I do not condone sexual misconduct of any kind. However, I want to say that this is, I think, a lot more of a nuanced situation than a lot of people handle. We're talking about the hashtag speaking out thing, and a shit ton of people have had shit get exposed on them for this, and some of them have admitted to it. Some of them have admitted to it without taking fault. A lot of them have denied it, and the fact of the matter is, if this does come to anything, it's going to be a lot of drawn out legal proceedings, and it's going to be a while before we hear the end of this stuff. But I'm ready to say, fuck Jim Cornette. I didn't like that guy anyway. That shit, if he was doing it, fuck him completely. It makes sense why he tried to defend the Fabulous Moolah now.
Yeah, like I understand Meltzer saying like some of the timeline things don't add up, but like there were several people going like, yeah, no, that sounds like something I went through, to not be at least a kernel of truth.
Mm-hmm.
On that situation. It is also, if any of it is true, that also paints the fact that he basically goes like, oh, this person I don't like has to be a pedophile, has to be a sexual predator, kind of like really fucked up.
Yeah. It's
because Cody, he did that. Like, there's a dude he doesn't like called Kenny Omega. And Kenny Omega brought in one of his trainees who is a young Japanese girl. She's like 98 pounds, sopping wet. But she's a great wrestler. And Jim Cornette basically said on his show, the only reason she's there is because Kenny Omega's fucking her.
And keep in mind, Kenny Omega has been training this girl since she was like 12 years old.
And there's no truth to that. That was him just slandering him.
Yeah.
So
that's real gross.
Oh no, this whole situation gets more gross because then you have the fucking saddest thing in my weekend, David fucking Starr.
Yeah, I like I felt super bad for you, but honestly, I felt like I dodged a bullet because I had been meaning to get around to watching some of Star's stuff. Never actually did it, and now I'm probably never gonna fucking do it because fuck him. I mean,
For those who
hey,
don't know,
great that his girlfriend got this whole ball rolling, but fuck that happened to her, and fuck that he probably did it to multiple girls.
David Starr was a professional wrestler whose primary thing was that he was advocating for a lot of workers' rights in wrestling. Great cause, good job. And as such, he also had a general air of progressive politics. Pretty cool. But he also abused his girlfriend, sent creepy ass videos to people, and generally acted like a sex pest. I'm so glad this started in England and they described them as sex pests, because that's the best way to fucking describe this lot of guys. It's just like they're fucking.
What is a sex pest?
It's like it's a sexual predator. Like it's the kind of dudes who sends a fucking dick pic to a random chick.
Like maybe they didn't overtly rape you, they didn't force you down and fuck you against your will, but like they played with your mind, they fucked you around, and they did a lot of really creepy shit.
Gotcha.
Speaking of which, Will Ospreay, that's one that really broke me. That's one that I was really upset about on Saturday. Him and Matt Riddle, which I know the Matt Riddle thing is highly contested right now, but if it's true, man, was I fucking broken up about that on Saturday. And like I had just been getting into Will Ospreay, so to find out that he like basically used this girl and then tried to get her blacklisted from the UK wrestling scene,
See, here's
and
the
that
thing. He didn't use her. His mate used her.
yeah, be Priestley.
No. A mate of his sexually assaulted her, and
Oh yeah, okay, that's right.
confront with it, and he basically said, "Hey, don't hire this chick for any wrestling shows," and blackballed her from the industry.
Yeah. And apparently B Priestley supported him in doing it and like tried to claim that she was bullying her. And it's like, goddamn, I was starting to get into them. I thought they were like a really cool progressive wrestling couple, and now this shit comes out and fucking the Marty Scroll thing is especially fucked up because like we were all pulling for him to maybe come to AEW one day, and now that's never gonna happen. And good, but also like, goddamn, just the statement he put out where he was trying to play the nice guy of like, yo, I'm sorry I caused her to feel this way. People, please stop blaming her. But also, she was the age of consent in England, and we were in England at the time. Dude, you were 25, fucking a 16-year-old.
You're gonna that's a lot of these stories essentially, Cody. There's a bunch of others that just like it's sad. One of them was Legaro. Jack Gallagher is another one. More shit about Velveteen Dream popped up.
And fucking Joey Ryan. Honestly,
we gotta fucking talk about Joey Ryan.
Honestly, I was not surprised that stuff came out about Joey Ryan once it got started, because like, just look at the fucking dude. Wrestlers often base their gimmicks on their own personality. But like it still hurts because he's kind of one of the pivotal things in getting BTE over on the internet, and now they're gonna have to scrub that from their history.
So Joey Ryan is a noted penis wrestler.
He's literally described in a lot of Being the Elite as famous dick wrestler Joey Ryan.
Because basically his gimmick was a sleazy fucking sex dude from Miami Beach. That was his gimmick. To the point, one of his signature moves was the other wrestler grabbing his dick and him flipping them. Here's the thing. Okay, cool. Whatever. He was also really well known for doing intergender wrestling.
Here's the thing. I think that gimmick in concept is hilarious and great, but you should only do that move if it's absolutely consensual between both parties. And apparently a lot of the time it wasn't. A lot of the time wrestlers, both male and female, felt pressure to do the finish because that's Joey's signature finish. That's why people pay to see him, because they think that's hilarious.
Yeah. And the last time I looked, it was about 20 some odd allegations of sexual abuse, sexual harassment, general fuckery, cheating, I think, has been a common theme in it. Abuse as well. A lot of through lines of exes and just general random people that, yeah, he did it to.
And then we have to talk about the two AEW boys, Jimmy Havoc and Sammy Guevara.
I think we should talk real quick about Sammy Guevara. Out of all the things we talked about, his is the least bad.
Yeah, I genuinely say, like, Sammy is not a lost cause. A lot of these guys actually physically did things to girls. Sammy said something inappropriate because he was young and stupid and thought it was funny. If he takes this time that AEW has said, like, hey, go get counseling, go think about this shit, and come back and we'll reevaluate. If he actually learns and grows from that, which I think he can,
honestly, I think he's already has, because the apology to Sasha,
he had a conversation with Sasha about it.
The reply from Sasha, and then his own video apology to the fans, basically going like, yeah, no, I'm a dumbass.
And like,
basically him and AEW have been doing everything right. It's because came out interview forever ago. He said he'd rape another female wrestler named Sasha Banks. He'd like to. He thought it was funny. It didn't happen anything, and then someone wanted to bring it back up, unrelated to speaking out. Apparently, it was a person.
It's very similar to the James Gunn thing, actually. Now that I think about it.
Yeah. So think about it's more like James Gunn than rape accusations. Basically going to like, hey, look, Sammy Guevara is a shitty person, and basically he was like, I'm not that person anymore. Nonetheless, I said it, and I'm sorry. I personally apologize to Sasha Banks. They had a private conversation. They talked it out, and basically Sasha went like, yeah, no, this is why it hurts. And he learned a lot from the way Sasha talked about it, because she made a statement herself. And then AEW said, like, all right, he is suspended with no definitive return. He is going to go to sensitivity training and counseling, and he is not getting his pay, and his pay is going to be donated to the Jacksonville Women's Shelter.
Which is like every right thing to say as a company, in my opinion. In this kind of situation, if he had actually physically done something to a girl, I would have said fire him, no severance pay. That severance pay goes to the women's shelter. Which is why the Jimmy Havoc thing is kind of weird, because he potentially might have physically done something to a girl, and they're sending him to counseling for drug issues.
I think part of the thing is they want to have a clear conscience about this, and he is an addict. He has had many emotional problems, and it's basically like, hey, we're not going to put you back in the world fucked up. We're going to try and fix you, but you're pretty much done with us. We're like, when this whole thing is done, we're going to reevaluate your situation, and that probably means you're going to be fired. Mm-hmm. Unless you show giant growth as a person, and even then I still think AEW should let him go.
And honestly, like, in that whole situation, I feel bad for the girl, and I also kind of really feel bad for Kip Sabian because he was getting a huge push along with Jimmy Havoc, and now who knows where that's going to go. They may just go back to doing the stuff they were doing with him and Penelope on their own, but like it's going to feel weird and disjointed now.
But WWE's basically anything substantial comes up on a wrestler, they fire them. Anything or if they're a main event person and they want to protect them, or if there is credible doubt, they're keeping them on and just kind of keeping quiet and just saying we're basically investigating internally. So
it's a whole weird fucky situation, and like we're not even the best group of people to be talking about it because we're a bunch of straight white guys, but still, like, as somebody who looks up to some of these people, like I said, hearing this news, I spent most of last Saturday just kind of sitting around my room processing what was happening, not even having anything on in the background, just kind of doing that thing where you just laze around and you kind of go things over in your head and go like, all right, morally, how do I really feel about this? What are my real stances on this? And like, how am I going to be able to enjoy this person's content anymore, even content they made before I found out about this?
Like, I felt like I had to go back to a video I just made about Orange Cassidy, where half of the video is me talking about an Orange Cassidy match he had against David Starr, and basically in the description go like, yeah, no, this video was made and released before any of that information came out. Fuck that. I do not think of David Starr in the same way. This video is staying up because it's about Orange Cassidy.
Yeah, and like I've teased it several times on here. I'm planning on doing a video that will also involve these guys on being the elite. I had to keep vid every episode because they've said they're going to take down and re-edit all the ones with Joey and Marty in it. And I won't lie, I haven't gone back to it since this shit started, but it's going to be hard watching the rest of those episodes because of what has come out about those guys. I'm still going to do it. I still want to make this video as good as I possibly can and as comprehensive as I possibly can, even if the elite themselves don't want that as part of their history. It still happens, so I still feel the need to take notes on the original versions. But it's not going to be comfortable.
But it's good that the wrestling industry is getting this out in the open, purging this, so to speak. And already several companies are taking strides to do better, like Progress basically restructured their entire creative team to have 2 women on it instead of no women. So it's like 2 guys, 2 girls. So that's Wrestle Talk, which is a news YouTube channel about wrestling. Basically said, hey, we can't do a ton structurally inside our company, but we can have more diverse guests on our podcast, and they're doing that, so there's more voice being heard. In general, I think most of the bigger companies are doing pretty okay with this. Also, Tessa Blanchard fired from goddamn Impact.
Yeah, she finally got fired for that racist shit that came out about her, like, what, 5 months ago?
Oh, not just that. They asked her to shoot some promos to do for TV in her house, and she didn't do it.
Yeah, that was the scapegoat.
Oh.
But Dynamite's been good the last couple weeks.
Hell yeah. It's been great to see Wolverine have some fun.
Yeah, I'm like I was fucking what's his name? Jeremy Powder, one of the lead designers on the AEW figures, has been up and down on social media over the last few months, and he put out the call during this week's episode of Dynamite like, hey guys, let me know what you want to see most, and we got some pretty cool news out of that. But one of the things I sent him was like, hey, Brian Cage and Taz 2-pack, make it happen, please and thank you.
And Cody, literally, Brian Cage, his gimmick is he's Wolverine.
Huh.
Like,
That's
His finisher is one of the moves Wolverine does in Marvel vs. Capcom.
Is it a fastball special?
No, it's called the
Couldn't be.
Dribble Claw.
I don't know if you want to get any more into this, but one thing I could say, since y'all are talking about having to go back and watch some of these people's matches and stuff like that, it's like, unfortunately, it's something that I'm sure we all have had to do quite a few times. Because, like,
Max
sometimes
Landis.
people say, do what?
Max Landis.
Yeah. Max Landis was a writer-director dude.
And he's also a very abusive psychopath, apparently.
Yep.
But just talking
Cody,
about separating... Yeah.
I was just thinking, the other fucking Cody.
Oh, well, that's a bit unrelated.
I know, but
it's the
just
same
that
kind of
like,
stuff, but
you think you know a person kind of thing.
it's what I'm talking about is like people will say like, oh, you know, separate the artist and the music, or separate the artist and the content, and like that's like a really I think honestly in most cases it's like a no, you can't. Obviously, probably the most popular one is going to be Michael Jackson. And that's probably like the hardest one too, maybe. But there's been like so many things where like I've just been like done, like CeeLo Green. I remember I was a big fan of CeeLo Green for the longest time. He had a like probably like one of the coolest Transformer songs out there, and then he said the shit that he said forever ago, and I was just like, hey, he's still out there, but like, nah, man, like that's not somebody I want to support, you know. And then like when I was at UNF, I got into XXXTentacion or whatever, and like I'm talking like I heard a song, and I was like, oh, that's a pretty good song. I like that. And then like the next day, all the stuff came out, and I was just like, oh, well, let me just remove that from this list real quick. Like, I think like under certain contexts, you know, like you might have to in certain ways, or not separate it, but like
Acknowledge.
Yeah.
I think there's a thing you can do. You can acknowledge like, yes, this is good content, but it was made by a shitty person, which is what I do in a lot of these cases. I just found it especially hard to process this time because, especially these days, wrestlers are so close in real life to the character they portray.
Yeah, it'd be rough.
There's also I completely forgot about this. I don't know how, but I should also say, out of this whole thing, this is the first time I've gotten. You know how I've been texting with. I've had Cody Rhodes on the auto text thing I told you about a few episodes ago, Chris.
Yeah.
This is the first time I've gotten an actual response from him on something.
Oof.
Because he sent out a mass text promoting Dynamite the other night, and I just replied like, "That's cool, man, but I don't know how I feel about watching wrestling right now. I'm kind of processing, you know, stuff about what's been going on." And he just replied, I totally understand. It's rough. We're doing what we can, but here's what's going to be on tonight if you do change your mind." And I did end up changing my mind, but it was really cool to me that Cody actually replied about that. It shows that like this, despite the way things may seem from like what his social media kind of looks like, he does care. Because I don't know if anybody else follows Cody Rhodes on social media, but he had basically not posted any statements about it. I think you could consider all the AEW statements his statements as well.
But yeah, no. AEW's been good. Can't wait to see Cassidy Jericho.
Yeah, that fucking build at the end of this week's episode. Did you see Joey Janela tweeted the screen cap of Cassidy standing there with the bloody ear and just titled it Drive 2020?
Fuck yeah, it's great.
Speaking of Joey Janela, that shit him and Sonny Kiss are doing. Mwah.
They're basically a tag team from a synthwave music video.
It's so good.
And Sonny Kiss is a non-binary professional wrestler who wrestles in the men's division. Basically,
non-binary. That's cool.
Yeah, they're non-binary. Non-binary, gay, and like they have a really unique look. Basically, like wrestling trunks and assless chaps. They have a good look.
Also, they're a black dude with bleached blonde hair, and they wear tank tops all the time.
What's the name of the wrestler?
Sonny Kiss.
Are you Googling him right now?
Yeah, I want to see.
Yeah. They're great. They're like genuinely one of the most improved wrestlers in AEW right now.
That lumberjack match with Luchasaurus and Wardlow, that was good.
Do you see a Sonny Kiss?
Let me see if I could find the picture, because I might have had a picture saved for a very long time.
Yeah, no,
I'm not sure. It looks like the same person, but there's like a picture I used to like send Cole a lot of, like it had to be this person in a like devil costume, but I don't know. It's just funny. It's just funny to think of.
Last week, fucking Billy Gunn taking on MJF. That was really good. Love that. Was Ricky Starks last week or the week before? I can't remember.
Ricky Starks getting his getting the TNT match was the week before. It was great, pretty solid. I'm glad Ricky Starks is in AEW.
He proved that he's a badass, and apparently they signed him right when he came through the curtain. They were just like, "All right, dude, that was a tryout, and you passed. Here's your contract."
And he got punched this week by Hikaru Shida,
which is pretty great. That whole bit where Hikaru comes out and she's just like, I don't give a fuck who this person is. I'm gonna argue with Penelope for a bit. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay, let's punch Penelope. Let's punch Kip Sabian. Let's punch Ricky Starks. I'm out of here. Like, yes, big strong girl. She doesn't take no one's shit.
Oh yeah, great little brawl between Hikaru and Ford. Just generally pretty solid. Pretty solid couple of episodes.
And fucking Britt Baker on the golf cart.
Hey! It's the Rolls Royce.
Yeah. So it's good stuff. I like it. And that's all there is to say about current wrestling. So with 25 minutes on the clock, let's do a little bit of what we've been up to this week, and we're gonna try and move into a little bit of a round robin fashion. I think just everyone does. We'll go in a circle. Everybody do one thing that they've been really into this week, and if it evolves into a conversation, it does. But eventually, when that conversation peters out, we move on to the next person. And this week, I think, Chris, what's one thing that you've been super into over the last couple weeks?
I got caught up on Black Clover.
That's an anime, correct?
It's a manga, yes. I've been reading the manga. It's a pretty bog standard shonen, but it's really good.
Neat.
Basically, it's a world full of magic and wizards, and everybody gets a magic book when they reach a certain age, except our main boy named Astra. Yeah. You expect me to remember shit?
I don't.
He doesn't get his book, and everybody goes like, it's because he doesn't have any magic. He can't do magic shit, and he's like all sad and depressed. But it turns out he can use anti-magic. literally just it just deactivates magic. That's it.
Nice.
But he has a sword and he swings it, and he's a real buff little dude. And he basically Shonen Pro tags his way into becoming a really cool wizard, even though he can't use magic.
So.
And now there's like devils involved, and it's really solid. They got a really like good magic system going on. It's just I like it.
Nice. Okay, Cody, what's stuff you've been really into in the last couple weeks?
Well, there's been quite a few things I've watched, but the one thing I will talk about right now is I've not finished it yet, but I started playing The Last of Us 2. The Last of Us Part 2.
That whole thing.
Yeah.
So, first thing I'll say, I mean, I haven't gotten all the way through it, but for one, Chris, you know how Cole is. Cole was one of those people who was like, this game is horrible before it came out. You know, he was like, oh, this game is horrible. It's trash. It's utter trash. Blah, blah, blah. But like, because I got it, he's like, I'll still play it, you know, just to like judge for myself, which he rarely like chooses to do that, which I wish he would always choose to do that. But he beat it, and he's like, the game is amazing. Everything was worth it. It was worth playing. I was wrong. And a few of the things I've seen people be mad about. One of the main things is just like really dumb, because like people are just like mad about like the main character Ellie, and like how like
she's a lesbian.
Yeah, well, I don't think she's like a lesbian. I think she's she's bi, because like she dates like other people, you know. I think like both characters are. I mean, it's not important, but like you know, like it's the whole game is fucking masterfully done, but like just like the acting and like the writing between them is just completely normal.
I've watched a couple full playthroughs of the first game. I haven't touched anything about the second game yet, except I know that like spoilers leaked and stuff. I gotta ask, did they kill off Joel in this one?
I guess like spoiler warning, but I mean, so yeah, that's something that happens, and that's something else that people are mad about.
Yeah, I'd expect so.
And here's the thing. The way it's done, the fact that like their reaction is like angry and stuff like that is proof that they did it right. Because it's like the most realistic and like shitty death of like a popular character I've ever seen. Because he's not like given a send off. He's not like it's like boom, it happens. It just happens. And like,
so it's realistic. It's completely random.
Yeah.
It just comes out of nowhere like death fucking does.
And like in game, I'm sitting there and I'm like, man, this was like a, you know, like you don't know what you have until it's gone. It felt like a real death. Like I was shocked at like, cause like then there's like later parts in the game where like there's a flashback scene with like him and Ellie, and it's akin to like the giraffe scene from the first game that everyone loves, and like it's so different. It's like it's the same energy but more, but because of how things go down in this game, it hurts. It's like heartfelt and beautiful, and it is painful all at the same time. And like I was just like so surprised the whole time, and I'm just like, man, this fucking sucks. Like it's brutal. I had to stop. Like I can't like sit and play the whole game because like it's like torture. It's like a lot of stuff in the game. A lot of the stuff that happens is just like brutal and like just rough, man. Like it's just rough.
Yeah, I think my like here's the thing. I'm not a fan of The Last of Us. I don't like games like that. I think my biggest problem, because just something about this game bugs me. I think my biggest problem is the massive human rights violations that Naughty Dog did in order to make the game.
Yeah, fuck the way
Yeah.
game companies treat their employees.
That just puts a giant wet blanket on anything they do, on anything a lot of major companies do, because it's like, yeah, it's a beautiful game, really well rendered, really well done, beautiful detail, but like a dude had to sleep under his desk and eat scraps for a week, for weeks, for months to make it. Like, it's not worth it.
Yeah.
And I think the second thing is, I understand why you're liking it so much. It's fine. That's fine. I understand why people are saying, like, no, it's a good game. I enjoyed it. It's a visceral, emotional experience. All right, cool. It feels like Oscar bait the video game.
That's a lot of the feedback, negative feedback the first game got, and honestly, having watched the first game a bunch of times, I feel like that's totally earned. Like, it is a really overhyped game, the first one, but it's still a pretty good game. And like, I was unsure if I was going to watch any playthroughs of the second one, but Cody, now that you have talked so positively about it, I'll probably watch at least one playthrough when I get the chance.
I also haven't finished it yet.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. Like games like that. I get what you're saying about the Oscar bait thing, where it's like trying to be like, I don't know. I like stuff like I like games like that when like because it's like it reminds me of Red Dead Redemption 2, which is another one of those games, but like Red Dead Redemption like did something. Like Red Dead Redemption 2 did something.
There's also the
Um,
recent God of War that was kind of like Last of Us.
yeah.
But another big thing is just, I'm gonna get into it. It's like it's game critics being uncritical and just saying like, no, this game's doing things that no game has done before. Like there was a quote I saw once. It's like, in a world of John Wicks, Last of Us 2 is Schindler's List. And it's like that amount of just like uncritical examination of the game. Like I watched a review from Jim Sterling. I agree with a lot of his opinion, so I trust his opinion. And he basically said the game's great, story's pretty good, it's depressing as shit, but that's fine. The game can kind of be at odds with the story it's telling because the gameplay is pretty fun, but the game story is saying like, hey, violence is a bad thing. So there's a little bit of disconnect, but you know what? You get used to it. I was going like, okay, cool. That sounds like a reasonable take. But like saying like, no, games haven't been this serious. We haven't done games serious, and this is the first time we're taking it serious, and we're doing it.
There's a lot of gamers out there who are so desperate for video games to be taken seriously that the moment they get a story that even remotely comes off as serious, they act like it's the greatest story of all time, not just in video games, but in any media. And that's kind of the reaction the first Last of Us got.
And that niggles at me because I play a ton of Japanese games. That's the primary place where I like my games from. Some of my favorite games include things with deep, enriching stories of a lot of interesting themes, and like saying that these haven't been dealt with in video games before is bullshit. Violence is a never-ending cycle, and like you got to stop it. Yeah, Mother 3 did that in goddamn 2003. Violence in video, violence is like a weird thing, and you understanding it and like it's bad and everything. Yeah, Metal Gear Solid did that in 1998.
You're not special, Sans.
Like it's fine to redo these stories and good to explore these themes more, but like saying like, no, it's this first time it's done, it's like you're just throwing out the history of video games to try and justify that this one is art. Take us seriously, film critics. Look at us. We're being serious now.
I don't know that's like, I mean, obviously it's not like them as a whole. That's on a basis, like on a person-to-person basis. Like if a critic's like that, like that in my opinion would kind of make me just like throw out uh, most of the things they'd say, because like
It's
most people know, most people know that like this game isn't the first. Like yeah, it might be like a AAA game that's like betting on a lot. I mean, but like not really. Like no, it's still gonna sell, and it still has sold, even with like all of the review bombs and stuff like that. Like, um,
it's the worst of sensationalized clickbait journalism and fanboy overhype coming together to make news and review media that is mainly targeted at normies and casuals.
Yeah.
yeah, like, and my favorite game reviewer right now is ACG. I also like Donkey a lot, but like he doesn't. I mean, so when Donkey gets into like his like reviews, I like him from a technical standpoint. Like I love his video on like critics, which is funny. He does like a review on like game reviewers, which is a lot of like what we're talking about right now. But because he did a Last of Us 2 one, and I had to stop because he like got to the spoiler section. I'm like, let me go beat the game first. I guess now that I'm on like quarantine, I should probably do that. But I don't know. Like I watched ACG, and I don't think ACG would be like the type of person to review a game like this because he does everything from a technical standpoint and a fun perspective. And like this isn't necessarily a game that you pick up to like play for fun. It's more of like a game that it's more of like a hardcore drama you're turning on to like just feel, I guess.
Yeah.
The gameplay can be fun. Yeah.
But like, and yeah, that's a perfectly valid way to make a game. But here's the thing: the lead game designer, Kevin Druckmann, has been going on as if he's like doing something brand new in the medium. And Pathologic 2 came out this year. Pathologic 1 came out 10 some odd years ago.
I think that's a little bit of a different conversation because there he's trying to sell a product. Of course, he's going to lie and sensationalize.
Yeah. But like, I don't know. It just rubs me so wrong. The so much the wrong way. It's just like I don't want to play American games because it just feels like so much masturbation of like, look at my ideas. You know?
Yeah.
Well, I can fucking go play goddamn Bayonetta, and the whole idea is like, look at this hot chick beat fucking shit up. Sick, isn't it?
All right. Well, I think that conversation is starting to get a little bit circular. So, do you guys mind if I do something now?
Go for it.
So I'm actually gonna let you guys decide because I want to talk about something that I watched, but I'm not sure what because I watched a crap ton of stuff in the last 2 weeks. What do you think? Should we talk about Garo? Should we talk about Power Rangers? Should we talk about Transformers, or should we talk about Kamen Rider?
Well, I know what my vote is.
Yeah, let's just go with some Transformers.
So Cyberverse has gotten absolutely insane, and I love it. Like we're headed into the final arc right now. But the whole Quintesson invasion storyline has been just wonderful because after they freed Whirl at the end of the last episode I talked about on the podcast, they got chased into what's left of McAdam's old oil house, and McAdam is still in there running it like normal. And we find out that the reason he's been doing that, and the reason the Quintessons can't see the bots that are hiding in there, is because McAdam's old oil house is the entrance to a massive titan called Iaconus that is buried under Cybertron. And McAdam was one of its pilots way back when, and he's now the guardian of it because it went berserk and tried to destroy Cybertron after it returned from the Age of Exploration. The interpretation they've been doing of the Quintessons is also really interesting because it's kind of like the board, but also not. Like, there's a lot of very segmented roles, and they're all clearly plugged into a central system and are just using bodies. Like, there's this one character called the Scientist, and there's this kind of funny gimmick in scenes with him where he'll show up and a bot will just shoot him like, shut up, we don't want to talk to you. And then he'll just immediately deploy another body and keep talking. And also we find out that in Cyberverse's continuity, the Quintessons are interdimensional travelers. They go to a dimension, find the robots in that dimension, suck their sparks dry for energy, and then move on to the next one. And for each dimension, the scientist creates a new unique judge. And right now, they're technically following the judge from the last dimension while they're creating this dimension's judge. Also, as a hilarious nod to variants and repaints in Transformers, the scientist collects color variations of sound wave from each dimension. Like, you literally see every color sound wave you can imagine in one scene. And he's like, oh, a blue one. I don't have a blue one. Basically, Soundwave and Rodimus team up with their ragtag little band of bots to try and free the rest of the Autobots and Decepticons, and they do actually end up succeeding. And they're like, all right, it's time to fight back and get the Quintessons off Cybertron. Let's do it. Optimus, Megatron, you guys ready to team up and stop them like we did? And Megatron just goes, I don't want to fucking team up with Optimus Prime. It's stupid. You guys do whatever you want. I'm going to go sulk in the other room. And he does that, and then we get a really awesome training montage of like groups of 4 bots, 2 Autobots, 2 Decepticons training together to learn how to work as a team while being led by Hot Rod and Soundwave, because Optimus basically went, well, if Megatron's not going to lead, then I shouldn't lead either, because then it'll look like this is an Autobot pure operation and the Decepticons won't feel welcome. And then there's just like a really great couple of battle episodes, some really fun character interaction all in there. Megatron does eventually come back because Dead End fills him in on their plan, and he's like, okay, well, you guys, Optimus, Bumblebee, and Dead End, you guys are doing a suicide mission to go take out the Quintessons. No way, I'm not getting involved in that shit. And then, of course, him and Dead End double-cross Optimus and Bumblebee, and they steal the interdimensional transporter, and they run off to go do nefarious shit. But the bots that remain behind do end up beating the Quintessons and destroying their base. And from the rubble, prematurely born, we get this dimension's judge, where all but one of the faces is too underdeveloped to talk. And the one face that is developed enough to talk and have a personality is fucking Starscream. Motherfucker got tossed into the dimensional void last season, and this is how he comes back. And that's the cliffhanger we're left off on at the end of episode 13. I love Cyberverse so much. It's so fun and out there. It's good.
It's nice to see you doing some dope shit.
Oh yeah, that Cliff Jumper video, that was excellent.
No, I was talking about the fact that McCafferty looks like Theo.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah. But let's we got a bit more time. Let's loop back around to you, Chris. What's something else you've been vibing on?
Cody disappeared.
Oh shit. You okay, Cody?
Back.
I have no idea what happened.
Weird.
Okay. Don't worry about it.
I heard you say fucking Starscream, and then like there was no notification. When Discord cuts out, it's just so strange. Yeah, I was saying that like I saw a picture of that on Twitter, and I didn't understand the context. I actually haven't gotten into Cyberverse at all. Half of it being I'm just trying not to like. I know if I watch it, I'm gonna want to buy something.
Oh, I've fought the urge so many times.
I'm not a fan of the Grimlock, but I'm a damn fan of that RC mold that they got running around. Mm-hmm. And a couple of other ones look pretty interesting. Just because they also did the effect part thing.
I'd say the show is definitely worth your time. Like The first season is a really fun, like, catch-all Transformers starter pack. The second one is basically what if G1, but good writing and animation and no humans. And the first season so far has just been like, we're getting canceled. Let's just go crazy.
Yeah, and like I know that like that was the other thing I was really happy about it. Like even if I haven't seen it, like I like it just because of what they're doing, like having like Cheetor there and like having stuff from like other Transformers shows like all kind of connect. It's nice to see. Um, to segue, kind of, a game got announced this week, I think. So at some time between like the last time we did one of these episodes and now, they're
Oh
doing a
yeah,
Cyberverse game.
that's basically XCOM but with Transformers.
Yeah. Um, and like I don't know how to feel about that. That's like really weird to me. It's weird that they're releasing a game for something after it's already been canceled.
From
Like
what
I'm
I
sure it's been in
understand,
development, but like
it's not meant to be explicitly a Cyberverse game. They're just using those designs because at the moment, Cyberverse is considered the evergreen design pool. Like that's why there's so many characters in Cyberverse. They just wanted a show that had a ton of designs they could throw on anything.
They wanted a new house style.
Yeah.
I mean, either way, like I also know that like or one of the main things and one of the reasons why I might have like some sort of bias towards it is just because like there was rumors for a while now that there was supposed to be like a War for Cybertron game.
Mm.
Um,
That's
there
War
wasn't
for
any
Cybertron
rumors about any
trilogy,
other
not War for Cybertron the
Transformers.
video game.
Yeah, I know, but like there was rumors that there was going to be a third-person shooter Transformers game. Um, then I was like, oh, is this the game like that was rumored to be in production? I'm like, yeah, that kind of sucks, you know, because like the War for Cybertron and Fall of Cybertron are like just. I was like, I played through like the first hour of it the other day of Fall of Cybertron, and I was just like, I was in the party with my friend Ashley, and I shit you not, for an hour straight, I'm complaining like constantly. Not because of the game being bad, but because of the game being so fucking good and just knowing where it went and like what happened and what Hasbro and Activision did to it. Like, because it hurts. Like, it hurts. And I don't know if we're ever going to get something like that again. I'm always game for any new game for Transformers, but like, I don't know if you know about Devastation, but like, that was awesome. Devastation is
Oh yeah.
awesome.
I haven't played it, but I've heard a lot of great things about Devastation. Like apparently it was just Easter eggs fucking everywhere.
I mean,
Yeah,
Platinum Boy's grand.
it's like short, sweet, and to the point, and you cannot buy it right now if you want it.
That's bullshit.
Yep. Just like I can't play Escalation on those games anymore.
Hopefully
I
we'll
don't
get a
know,
serious game again at some point.
or something, you know, like just anything, man. Like, the, how is like no one's seen the potential of like? I mean, somebody literally already did. They literally already did. They were both great. But
I
like,
just imagine
man,
an open world, like just give you an entire, like give you like a GTA city and just pick an Autobot and go on missions.
That's what the first movie game was. It was made in a GTA like
yeah.
engine, but it was a movie tie-in game that was rushed out, so it wasn't that great. But it
I'm
was
just saying. I'm not saying like it has to be like I'm just saying a big open world where you can drive around and similar to how Spider-Man is a lot of movement. Do Transformer game where driving is a major like fun thing to just do by itself.
I don't know, like the War and Fall games kind of did that without the open world, and like they just like they knocked it out of the park. It's just as fun to drive around and shoot shit as it is to walk around and shoot shit.
yeah. And I've got a big soft spot in my heart for the Armada game. I played the shit out of that as a kid.
Oh my god, dude! Like that game blew my mind when I was a child. Like whenever I remember like getting the minicom that like gave you like wings and like getting up on a high point and like getting to an area that was like part of the map, but I wasn't supposed to be there yet, and just like keep going on and like moving on. I just remember being like, that was like the first time of like that. Actually, yeah, that was probably the first time I played a game that was like allowing me to explore like that, and like it was just mind numbing, and it was also good. And dude, the cutscenes in that game, my god! Like whenever Starscream comes in and like the Arctic level, it's like the most badass thing you've ever seen in your life. Like, dude, that and the tidal wave boss fight, man, Jesus, God, that game's good. If that game was on the PS4 right now,
what if they just did a HD remake?
Oh, I'd lose my mind.
They can't. They can't.
Why?
That's also Activision, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh,
gay. Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Yeah.
With Activision?
No, gay. Saying gay as a synonym for bad.
Yeah, no, like, no, there's a lot wrong with Activision. They're greedy assholes who destroy game companies that are good.
I mean, that's 90%
like
of games.
That nobody does it like Activision. Nobody does it as
that should be their slogan.
Like Activision has such a disgusting graveyard of like big, massive game companies that they just like dissolved.
EA.
I don't know. Because like what Activision does to them is like there's remnants of a lot of them left over, but they work on all the Call of Duties.
Yeah, like Raven.
Mm-hmm.
Because Raven did Heretic and Hexen, I think.
I think so.
I know they worked on like id Engine games.
Oh, you mean every single Call of Duty? Still?
Is Call of Duty still on id Engine?
Well, the Quake is the same, right? Quake is id Engine.
id Engine. Okay, so there was the first id Engine, which was the Castle Wolfenstein stuff. Second, id Engine is also known as the Doom Engine. Then you have the third one, which was the first Quake, and then you have Quake 2, which is its own engine, and now I think they're on the latest Quake, so it's like id Engine 5 or 6.
I think they worked on the Quake engine. Because like even the most modern Call of Duty still has remnant. I mean most shooters, but like Call of Duty especially still has severe remnants. Like it's still like that's like one of the biggest issues with Call of Duty is like every year they release one, it's just like the reason why they look the way they do, they have like this certain kind of like sheen to some of the stuff is because like they've constantly edited the engine and haven't changed it since like fucking before Call of Duty 4, you know, like Modern Warfare. So like almost like a decade or more. And it's leftover Quake engine.
Yeah, IW Engine is a game engine developed by Infinity Ward and is used in the Call of Duty series. The engine is based off of id Tech 3.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a fork of the first Quake engine.
All right. Well, we're starting to get pretty off topic from what we were originally talking about. So,
Sorry.
And we're also almost we are actually, I just checked, we're over the 2-hour mark. So why don't we go over one more time? What's one more thing, Chris, that you want to talk about real quick, and then let's wrap it up. Not after Chris, but after each of us have done one more thing.
I started reading a new Shonen Jump. They got a new manga out. They got like 30 or 40 chapters of it so far. Basically, it's a spy story but the whole thing is that there's a really cool super secret spy family, and the older brother is a fucking creep and will kill anybody who gets close to his little sister. And little sister has a childhood best friend, and they like each other. The older brother finds out, and the rest of the family goes like, shit, he can't kill you with your family, so marry her. And they do. So now he's married into a family of spies, and he's slowly becoming a badass spy. That's the story.
Jesus, I love how you just said like, "Oh, I'm reading this new manga. It's 40 chapters in."
Dude, you gotta realize I just got caught up to Black Clover, which is at 250 some odd chapters. I am up to date on One Piece, which is 900 some odd chapters.
I know. Manga is insanity.
Fucking comics are insanity. Spider-Man got to 801 issues.
That's true. Anything else you want to bring up, Cody?
The only other big important thing that I did recently is I watched Promare.
The Trigger.
Yeah.
Yes. I have not watched it myself, but I know of it.
Yeah, like I haven't watched all of Kill la Kill, but I fucking love Gurren Lagann.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of that, but like, dude, it's a really good movie. Like, I didn't know. That was the treat. Is I didn't know what it was, and Paige suggested we watch it one night, and so I was like, it seems pretty, sure, we can go for it. And then like I immediately realized, I was just like, without knowing, I was like, that kind of looks like this kind of reminds me of Gurren Lagann, a little bit of Kill la Kill too, and it's like it's exactly what that is. And like as the movie went on, like it got to a point to where like they referenced like the drill thing, and I was just like, now wait a fucking minute now, like
hold the fuck up, something's going on here.
But it's good. It's 100% worth the watch. I rented that shit, and like I suggest anybody do the same because it's like worth the money. But
okay. Do we want to finish out on a rant or some fanboying?
Flip a coin.
Hold on. Wait a second.
Oh my god, Chris is going to do it.
Heads or tails?
Heads.
Okay, what is heads?
I don't know. We should have decided that before you did.
Hold on. Okay, heads is rant, tails is fanboy. Okay. Let's see. It is tails, fanboy.
All right, so we are now in the end game for Power Rangers Beast Morphers. And my oh my, what a marvelous show this has been. Like I'm going to do a season 2 review on my channel once it's completely over with the international airings like I did for season 1. But damn, we're now up to episode 19. It's a 22 episode season, though episode 22 has technically already aired because it's a special. Or no, I'm sorry, it's a 23 episode season. 23 aired before the hiatus and the international airings. But there's a couple specials this season. They've both been good. But the main thing is flipping. We had the Dino crossover. They finally did it. Been teasing it for years because of that Sentai movie, and like, look, it wasn't the best thing ever, but they put a lot of good work into it. I feel it was about on par with Dimensions in Danger, which is not as amazing and mind-blowing as Forever Red, but leagues above anything in Operation Overdrive or Super Mega Force. So fucking fully passable. The episode that aired today, because we're now 2 parts into the 3-part finale, the penultimate episode was just really great because it's fantastic character work and also continuity. And I'm about to drop a massive spoiler for the show here. They did the thing. Evox is Vengex.
I saw that and it's like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
they're bringing RPM into mainline continuity?
So what had happened was, when Nate was a kid experimenting around with creating Rangers for the first time, he was essentially trying to add Morphex and Snake DNA to various morphers. And he didn't get any results until he got to an RPM cell shifter. And when he added that, it blew up in his face. But unbeknownst to him, during the explosion, some of the data of Vengex that was hiding in that morpher and the Morphex and the Snake Venom all mixed together and got into the grid defense force or whatever, grid battle force, into their computer systems and had been hiding there ever since, waiting for them to make the tower so he could execute his new master plan. And the way we find this out is, in the previous episode, Vengex, Evox, whatever you want to call him, he let himself get captured. And the Rangers realized this at the end of that episode because they thought they had succeeded, and then they found something out about the plot of the episode, and they were like, oh, he wanted to be captured. He's got something up his sleeves. We need to destroy him quickly. So this episode opens with them going like, all right, here's our big MacGuffin weapon that's going to destroy him. Let's lower the shield on the thing that's holding him right now and just shoot him. And they try to, and he's just standing there taking it, but he's got a little tentacle that's swirling around to the computer systems and getting him back in there. So they chase him around the base for like 5 minutes until he gets to the Ranger Technology Vault and walks out with a briefcase. A very familiar looking briefcase that immediately had me going, I fucking know that. Where's that from? What is that? And he sets it on the table and opens it. It's the briefcase they put all the morphers in at the end of RPM, with that slow zoom on the one with the glowing red Vengex eye. And he pulls out that same morpher and he downloads all the data from it, and he goes, it's too late. You can't stop me now. I'm back at full strength. And as he's saying it, the Evox voice slowly gives way to the Vengex voice. They got the original voice actor back. And go ahead.
That's fucking dope.
Mm-hmm. And he kicks the crap out of the Rangers and leaves. And Nate is just shell-shocked from this because he's like, oh no, a thing that almost destroyed another dimension is now loose in our dimension because of something I did when I was a stupid kid. This is all my fault. How am I ever going to stop this? And at first I was like, okay, this is kind of retready. I mean, like, I get where they're going here. That's fine, but it's a shame that they can't because they already did that. And then Zoe, after trying to cheer him up and realizing that she can't do anything about it because at this point it's no knowledge to the rest of the team that they're dating. She's like, all right, I have an idea. Devin, come help me make a trans-dimensional call. They just fucking bring Dr. K in to give Nate a pep talk and say, like, look, I know it sucks. I've been there. But we beat Vengex once, and now your team can do it again, and I'm going to help you. And the rest of the episode is just Dr. K and Nate working together to create a new MacGuffin weapon for them to stop Evox Vengex with. And they then go and test it out on Blaze and finally destroy him for good. Don't worry, the real Blaze was rescued back in season 1. She then leaves being like, I'm all right, now that I know that works, I know you guys can handle it. I'm going to go back to our dimension and I'm going to check all my systems to see if there's any other traces of Evox hidden somewhere, if he can cause more trouble, blah, 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 blah. I'll talk to you in a bit. And then right after she leaves, Evox Vengex takes control of the entire Morphex tower grid and starts creating a network of green energy beams around the Earth and like gloating to the Rangers over an intercom and being like, "There's nothing you can do to stop me now. Blaze was just a distraction. You guys fell for it. Scrozzle, the fucking Finster character of the season, snuck into a Morphex tower and hacked it for me. Now that we have the access codes that I stole from your system earlier in the episode, and now it's all over, to be continued for the final episode that's airing on Monday."
So Beast Morphers is sequel prequel to RPM.
It's straight up sequel because they act like it's years later. Like Dr. K shows up and like fucking full credit to Chip Lynn because he wrote the back half of RPM and he writes this episode. And Olivia Tennant turns in a wonderful performance where you can still tell this is still Dr. K. This is still that same character. It doesn't feel like a different character that's written in the Neo Saban style. But she's also grown a little bit. She's a much more personable person, and she's able of helping them without being like overtly stodgy or any of the stuff she was in the early part of RPM. You can tell she's been through her arc and then some since the show happened. Like there's a little subplot of like Ben and Betty, the comedy relief duo. They try and help her while the Rangers are away. They try and help her with building the MacGuffin, and she's like, I did that, I can do this on my own. But you know what you guys can do? You can mix me up a special fuel. And she gives them instructions on how to make tea that doesn't sound anything like making tea. And they go off to make it, and they come back at the end of the episode, and she's like, "Oh, you guys did a wonderful job." And she takes a drink of it, and they're like, "No, no, 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 no." And she reveals that it's tea, and they're like, "Oh, you just sent us on bitch work." And she's like, "No, I tested you guys. You followed my instructions to the exact letter, and you did a great job. This tea tastes fantastic, and you did it without knowing you were making tea. You're welcome in my lab anytime. I'll see you around." And it was like, that's a very Dr. K way of feeling out people without being a dick about it, and I kind of like that. Also, Olivia Tennant was like a tiny little girl in RPM. She's a fucking giant now, which is kind of great. Like she towers over Nate in some of their scenes, and it's wonderful. Just seeing one mentor talk to another and being clearly way older. But yeah, no, Beast Morphers has been great. Like, I'll admit there were a couple of rough fillers in between the Dino team up and the final arc that we're in now. But overall, I have immensely enjoyed this season, and it's kind of incredible that like we've in the form of this season, because this is the same team as Neo Saban. It's just Hasbro was facilitating it coming out. And we're getting a mostly new team for Dino Fury. But it's amazing seeing this team finally prove like, yeah, no, we were good at doing Power Rangers. It's just Haim Saban kept coming in and making us do stupid shit because of corporate reasons.
It definitely, like, part of me feels like this season was Hasbro looking at the fan reaction to all of Power Rangers and goes like, this season's really well loved. Can we do something with that? And the writers were like, it's a different dimension. There's a lot. Can you? I mean, yeah, we can. Do it.
And it's also great because have you heard about the Amit Bhaumek pitch for a Go Busters adaptation?
No.
He had pitched that it would be a sequel to Lost Galaxy set on Miranoi that would bring RPM into the main PRU with Vengex as the villain.
So there's a little bit in there.
Yeah. So when I saw that scene, I immediately paused the episode and went on Twitter, and I just with the hashtag people are using, so people who aren't watching the international spoilers can mute spoilery tweets. I immediately went, Amit Bhaumek, you magnificent bastard! I read your book. Judd Lynn, 2020.
I know. It's nice to see American Toku actually doing shit and not just spinning its wheels.
Yeah, is good. And like Tokusatsu in general is really good right now. Like I've been watching some really good older Garo that I mentioned earlier. Ryder is getting back on its feet and doing some interesting stuff. And fucking Ultraman aired the first episode of its new season and presumably is going to air the rest of the new season simulcasted on YouTube with English subs. And I watched that first episode. Second episode came out just before we started recording, but the first episode, mwah. I forgot how much I like Ultraman until I saw that.
Hells yeah.
But that is it. That is going to do it for this episode of Analytical Fanboys. We have been talking for well over 2 hours, so it's certainly time to pack it up and head home. But before we do that, I'm going to throw these guys here, starting with Cody. Why don't you tell the good folks where they can find you on social media?
Just Snowcone and Instagram's no, it's not a common robo. That's something else. Never_robot is Instagram. Snowcone83 on most of everything else. Some variation, space sometimes not.
Nice. And Chris, where can people find your stuff?
I'm Chris Boingo Writer Gaston. I do video editorial dumb shits. You can find me on YouTube at Boingo Writer. Put that in the search bar. You can probably find link description, that kind of stuff. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and my Discord server. A link to that is in the description. And it's gotten hella active. Who knew? It just needed like one more person to be active on it. And it feels like it's generally pretty solid right now.
Yeah, literally every day Cody and I are in there talking about toys.
I've noticed, like, when it's toys, we talk on my server, but when it's wrestling, we talk on your server because I don't know, that's just the way it kind of parses out the conversation.
You know, well, you're not huge over as a wrestling guy right now, and I don't have anyone in my server who isn't already my friend yet. It's supposed to be a patron-only server, but I just have friends in there under admin roles. So it's just the place where Chris and I go to talk about wrestling when we can't get in a call.
Gotcha.
But hey, speaking of that, I am Simeon the Vacuuminator Scott, your modular king of the vlogging and reviewing and podcasting and whatever I feel like doing this week. Ring. So you can find my stuff on the YouTube at youtube.com/thevacuuminator. That's spelled THEVACWMINATOR. If you don't know, I do all kinds of cool stuff. I've done all kinds of cool stuff, and I will do all kinds of cool stuff in the future. So you should go check out my videos, and you should follow me on social media. It's at the Vacuuminator on Twitter and Instagram, and I'm also lurking around on Reddit and all kinds of other fun sites. Maybe you'll run into me there. But that's going to do it for now. It's going to do it for this episode of Analytical Fanboys. We hope you've enjoyed it, and we hope you will join us back here next week when we will be discussing Monsters Incorporated.
Do-do-do-do-do.
Do-do-do-do.
If I were a rich man,
you'd have a lot more toys.
We have our own Sully.
Yeah.